Hello, my name is Huigen Leeflang. I'm curator of prints at the Rijksmuseum here in Amsterdam. And I will be speaking to the artist Laurence Aegerter about her exhibition, Le Main et l'œil, here in the Galerie Caroline O'Brien for the Amsterdam Art Gallery weekend. And the exhibition consists in two parts. Louvre Plage, which is behind us, which we're not talking about, but I will interview you on the second part of your exhibition, Composition synesthésique. Is that correct?
Almost correct. It's synesthetic, but I know it's rather confusing. complex title. That's sure.
Well, explain something about the title, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Actually, this word synesthetic comes from synesthesia, and synesthesia is this. For some people, it's a handicap, but it can be also considered as an extra quality, an extra value that people have to have. A multi-sensorial access to images, and so for instance, some people see a letter in a color, like green would be E, the letter E, or so. And I was thinking, so it's not only reading and seeing colors, but it's also, it can be multisensorial in all kind of way, including also the touch, the sense of the touch. Yeah. So I was thinking how to, in this work, I've been playing with the sense of the sight and the sense of the touch.
Yeah, and the reason I'm interviewing you is because on the basis of this, the material that you use are the images from prints by the famous German Renaissance artist Albrecht Dürer, and you intervene in his images in a very interesting way. I'm caring for the original prints in the Rijksmuseum, and you can find the images on our website, which you did probably. But you can also study them in the original, in our study room, and you do almost everything that's not allowed in our study room. You add to them, and you invite more or less the beholder to touch them, which is also strictly forbidden, of course. Is there...
Yeah, maybe that's why, because I was actually myself in a bit far away past now, an intern in the study room of the Rijksmuseum, and it's not from there that we know each other, funnily enough, but and then I've been seeing all these boxes filled with etchings, engravings, woodcuts in passepartout, being handled with gloves and very in acid-free paper and taken great care of, but indeed which add to the mystification of the artworks, and which is required for proper conservation, but it is also frustrating and a bit castrating, because I think to really get inner work you want to touch it, smell it, at least that's my experience.
Yes, indeed. You're not allowed to, but indeed, if you would touch the original prints by Dürer, you would also feel, that
the grooves,
the ink lines that really stand up on the paper. So they
did touch them.
Invite.
You did touch them.
I never did. No. You
Pinocchio.
want to have me fired? No, but you started doing this, intervening in compositions by old masters already before this series. How did it start?
How did it start?
You were collecting, well...
I think maybe it started from books also, because I love to look into art books, look at reproductions. be amazed by their quality sometimes, and it triggers my curiosity and to read. And then somehow I had this collection of art books on my shelf as a teenager. And also I had a lot of lonely time because I have no brother and sister, so very often I was quite alone at home because my both parents were working very hard. So I had plenty of time to go into my books and to really travel in the reproductions. So that might be a little bit at the start of this interest, and to feel the urge to make works myself, but in a way that is so when I intervene, as you say very well, upon an artwork, it's even sometimes there is humor involved, I think, here and there, but it's never meant as an irony. It's I hope it's not it's not conveying that, because then I would do something wrong. It's always anyway. I only work on work that I really like. So I chose here also my 10 favorite engravings by Dürer, and one dry needle. How do you call that? Drogenaald?
Dry point.
Dry point.
We will come to that later.
Yeah, thanks
hopefully.
to you. I
No, but you're also referring with these lines and these geometrical figures to a special kind of art books, where the compositions of old masters are more or less decoded by art historians mostly, but there are also artists doing that, trying to more or less reveal the secret of the composition.
But actually I found for this to get to this specific work of composition synesthétique with these composition lines and these structures, it didn't came from a book. It came from serendipity, I think, as it's called. I was doing a search on internet, and I came across images of paintings with lines with colored markers, or some lines that had been drawn by Photoshop, and probably for most of them for educative means. And I right away I loved them because they were creating some kind of an extra layer of abstraction on the painting. If you forget the educative function of them. And then also sometimes they are a bit, a bit naive, or they're not made to be beautiful, they're made to say something clearly. So, but sometimes you had really a thick marker and pointillé lines, or they made me laugh also, because I think it's so typical of this search we have as mankind. We always want to understand, we always want to get to the bottom of things.
Well, and if there was one artist who tried to do that, it was of course Albrecht Dürer, who also wanted to understand the visual world by analyzing it using math, studying proportion, especially human proportion, and for example, the Adam and Eve. Dürer went to Italy and tried to study Italian art and how they succeeded in displaying the human body in such a perfect way as Italian artists were capable to do. But they didn't want to reveal the secret formulas, so he had to do it himself. And also the one-point perspective, he was trying to figure that out.
You mean the central point?
So, in fact, trying to figure out how you can visualize the visual world in your art. And there are many drawings by Dürer preparatory to this engraving. There he also uses geometrical figures to figure out the human proportions. It's basically Vitruvian.
So you think he did the same?
No, you didn't do something completely different. I get to that. But here, for example, the classical proportion is, the head is 8 times the body, or the body is 8 times the head. And yeah, that doesn't work really well if you stick to that, because he wanted to make Adam a bit taller, so he had to lengthen his legs and thereby abandoned the Vitruvian canon of this 8 times the head. So, and he was really struggling with that, using geometrical patterns and compasses and rulers, but you seem to be heading at something else here.
Yes, I'm not looking for the bottom truth, if there is any, because being an artist myself, of course, I know how layered truth can be as well, and what is the truth of today, or what has been built and thought in truth today is forgotten few days later sometimes, and you have to get back to your own truth to know, but why did I do this, or what did I really mean, or what did I intend? So I think this is very complex.
But how do you start? By looking very closely at the image, I presume.
Yes, then first because to start with, I find this search of understanding symbolic totally interesting and fascinating too, even though clearly it goes sometimes a bit too far and unnecessary, but it's also fun. So the whole thing about it is fun. But how I start is indeed
Maybe
that I looked.
I can give you the.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I start indeed from reproductions, clearly that I printed on life size, and then I start to draw on them with my with markers, and I really take quite a while to think. How is this built, and what do I see, and where? What are the strategies the artist, consciously or unconsciously, has been using to direct my eye? And then, of course, Dürer is such a wonderful master that you can enjoy so many details. His technique is fabulous. So it's so much fun to look at them, really millimeter by millimeter. Almost. But what I'm looking at is indeed searching for main lines that are existing. Sometimes they are existing, but I don't want to show them. I just want to, I will keep just the things that I find the most, the composition atop and now how to know what I keep or not keep, I don't even know so much myself. It's a game of intuition and ratio, and who wins when. It's also it's something impossible to.
And these lines are printed in relief. Huh? You can actually feel them. And
indeed. Yeah. It's so now I'm feeling rubber. It's so it's really popping out, and some lines are braille. So it's a little like this one. They are these little balls, transparent balls, and when you look them in side lights, it makes them a bit shiny. You see? Yeah. It's quite nice to see them in side lights.
They don't overlap. Huh? So you very carefully look that these lines don't overlap, that you keep space for a new line. And
exactly.
It's more or less what Dürer also had to do in his engravings. When you go through another line, you spoil your whole copper plate. So.
And you can't go back. So in his case, even much more difficult. But indeed, this is also quite difficult to achieve because of for each of these prints, they have been silkscreen 4 or 5 times. So each time the print went again through the silkscreen, and the person who did it, Bert, the silkscreener, I gave him the nickname the goldsmith, because indeed, as you say, lines are never going on the top of each other, and it is a total puzzle to do it in the right order. And so to realize a good one, we need to waste 6 or 7 of them, even though it's so on the top of it, but sometimes, and half a millimeter or even a quarter of a millimeter will show off. So this is rather, it's also a very precise work, but I liked it when you had told me last time that Dürer's father was goldsmith, no?
Yes, he was trained as a goldsmith, and
he too was trained as a goldsmith.
But he told his father that he didn't want to proceed in that profession, but wanted to be an artist, a painter, and a printmaker. And most of these printmakers, these engravers, were goldsmiths in the Renaissance. So his example, Martin Schongauer, the first professional printmaker, was also trained as a goldsmith. So they were used to cut in metal. That's what he learned probably from a very early age. And so the step towards copper engraving is not that big.
And what brought you, if I may ask you, to become curator of prints specifically?
Well, I wanted to become an artist, but I didn't have the talent, so I studied art history. But I did a lot of etching when I was young. I mean, from 14 years old, I started doing etching. So prints always fascinated me, and
So you like also this very fine. The details to work with a loop and things like that.
The whole print process is still what fascinates me. It's such
But when you see the work I've been doing, is it something that is for you? Now, try to be honest. Very kind of painful.
No, there might be people who really see this as a profanation of Dürer's
exactly,
work.
and I'm aware of that.
Yeah, you have one admirer of Dürer who was a contemporary, Desiderius Erasmus of Rotterdam, who they were befriended probably. Dürer was also an admirer of Erasmus, made his portrait in engraving, which you didn't use, but and he writes about Dürer's prints as a kind of miracle that Dürer could achieve all the effects that painters did with color, but just with black lines and white paper. And he even says, if you use color pigment on them, that would injure the lines.
And injure the power of the.
Well, it was custom in the 16th century to color prints. So many of these prints were colored, not by the artists themselves, but by professional colorists who just put paint over them, so you could put them on the wall as a kind of.
As a cheap painting.
Exactly. So Erasmus is criticizing that custom when it's applied to Dürer prints. So I don't know if Erasmus would have liked what you did with them, but the color is indeed very present, and you also play with it. I mean, this is one of Dürer's early famous works, the prodigal son among the swines. It's the son who got part of the heritage of his father and used it to visit brothels and to feast, and then ended up dead poor, being a swineherd and having to eat among the pigs. And it's a fantastic print. Dürer was 22 when he made it, was wandering around himself, not spoiling his father's money, but still he could probably relate to the boy. And it's fantastic how he succeeds in rendering the hair and of the swines and the structure of the wood of this decaying farmhouse. But you add lines, you point at our attention to certain aspects of the composition, but here you also do something. What is that?
That's Yeah, this when you look at it for a long time, then form appears, and extra form appear, and so somehow I started to see this house here at the back as a crying house, as as if to hold some kind of emotional breakthrough for me. I mean, I like thinking of his emotional breakthrough, and yeah, so it was my way to. I mean, I don't think, if I don't say it, no one can think of this by themselves. But just to say, I have my own games of play, in it. That for sure. And some lines are more, what I say, intuitive, or just by trying and by trial and error. So actually, for each for each work, I've been making. I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40 variation, depending on, sometimes you find quicker, sometimes less. But I had to deal with of course, the lines, but also the color of the lines and the structure of each. Because it could be rough, like sandpaper, or this braille I was talking about, and this little, kind of transparent bubble, or this rubber. So. And each had been a really conscious decision. So for a long time they hang. Also, I remember a certain point they were hanging in my kitchen, because I need to think of them also early in the morning when I wake up, or at each moment. And then I feel, now something irritates me. What is it? Something is not good yet, Then, so then, as long as I don't find, I have to put them around me. Not only in the studio, but also in my surrounding. But I have no idea why sometimes things feel like there is a. Of course, it's totally subjective. I don't pretend that I'm reaching that for other people, but I'm doing it. Hopefully, of course, I do hope so. But the starting point is my own. That it should fit to my eye and my own feeling.
But your sense of humor is really in the detail, in the small details, and that's very much like Dürer. He always has some kind of small, funny thing, or like here, the cow that's walking out of the picture frame, as though it's a photograph or a film. It's this sense of time, and
it's great. I also love this goat, which is. Somehow a bit thinking of suicide. I have the impression in the Adam and Eva, but I don't know if you have the same interpretation of it.
Well,
this goat here.
Yeah, there in all Dürer's prints invite to serious interpretation of details, and this has been interpreted as a symbol of Christ. These mountain goats can fall. But are protected by their horns and survive. Adam and Eve, during the original sin, made them mortal, so they will die. But this symbol of Christ is the hope for the future, that mankind will be saved by Christ's death and resurrection. So, that kind of very serious symbols are also in Dürer's work a lot. And,
but the goat is also sometimes a symbol of lust and unbelief in some other context, depending on the context. That's what makes it.
A lot of these works by Dürer are still enigmas. There are no sound.
This one, no, the one. Where is this?
Das Meerwunder.
I was thinking of the Melancholia.
Melancholia, yeah.
No?
That one too.
I'm curious what you think about it.
Oh God. There's been a whole bookcase written about this print, all kind of interpretations. It's definitely.
What is yours?
It's definitely an allegory on science, which is connected to a melancholic temperament. It's this label that you almost made invisible says.
Yeah, that's true.
Melancholia. And yeah, this is a kind of female genius with compasses in her hand, and yeah, they're all references to sciences, but also to art and to art and the making of art, like tools for a carpenter. And yeah, it's probably a very personal statement about art being partly intellect and partly the making of things, the creation of things. And yeah, it's an incredible print. It's one of the three so-called Meisterstiche or master engravings, and you used all three of them: the Melancholia,
Yeah, so we just
Night,
the Night,
Death and the Devil, and here Jerome in his study, which, yeah.
I love this one.
Yeah, me too.
It's really such
Can
a
we
beautiful
take it out
image.
somewhere?
Sure, I can
think
hold this
it's where is it? It's
This
always
the last one, right?
on the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I have it.
There it is. Yeah. Now in this print, it's about 1514 that he made it, and here you see that he really masters his perspective, his one-point perspective. It's Jerome in his study, and yeah, Jerome is more or less the patron saint of the intellectuals. And Dürer, yeah, depicted him 8 times in his works. But what is especially interesting here is his rendering of all this texture, the texture of the wood, these.
The cast of the sun on the wall. This is like.
Yeah, it's one display of virtuosity with the Buren of, yeah. This has never been surpassed in Buren engraving. Also the texture of this dog and
the fur of
fur
the animal.
It's
It's
really
just
incredible.
amazing.
But here, yeah, what you did is really make this connection between the skull and the skull of Jerome very, very obvious,
and also with a hat and how do you say this pumpkin, no?
Yeah. So yeah, you more or less force us to make these connections, which you maybe not would make without these interventions, but also very small funny things like Dürer's monogram on a tablet, and you just pointed out there's a little string attached to it, and
in a special shape.
Yeah.
So yeah, this I chose, for instance, the string for its special shape. Otherwise, I would not have highlighted it. You see. So these are things to say that this is also one of my favorite because of this. There is something a bit intemporal, out of time in the softness of this scenery. It's totally delicious just to travel in it with your eyes, and it felt. I think I did this light purple shapes that are
intriguing forms,
giving somehow another dimension to it. But what makes me very very happy with this print now, how after I've been intervening on it, is that I'm very happy with this little little tickling of the sun on the head of the of the lion, because I think this is a way to. There is of course the gravity of the subject. These vanitas. We're going to die. Whatever you learn, or how great an artist you are, engraver or what. But this is just. But the softness of the softness of the moments and the beauty of the moment in all its detail has also a lightness. And this, I thought it was important also to highlight in this lightness somehow.
Yeah. You are an artist, but also an art historian, and the first art historians were all artists. We had Vasari in Florence and Van Mander in the Netherlands, but nowadays it's a rare combination. But looking at old art is more or less what you seems to be at the core of your of the art you make yourself, like in the exhibition that you now have in solo exhibition in Petit Palais in Paris, which will reopen soon, we hope.
Yes.
But there you, on a larger scale, you also want to make the visitor aware of layers in older art, or art by old masters, I think. So this is connected to...
Sure, and not only aware of layers, because it's more to approach the artworks as open works, as works that are not fixed into the time they were made and the sense they had for the artist, of the people around him at the time, but are open works for each of us to engage with on the level we want to, but not something to that is not that distant to us, I think, and always open to new interpretation. That's what I find rather important.
Well, I really hope to see the exhibition in Paris when it reopens. But this is already wonderful.
Thank you so much, Huigen,
Thank you
for your coming, and lovely to discuss with you. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.